Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. If you couldn't tell, that last segment was pre-recorded. Right now it is live. Unless, of course, it's not September 26, 2012. Then it might be recorded. Who knows? We might replay this one day. Maestro Matthew Wardell is the only guy I know who calls himself Maestro. And he's in the studio right now. He's the conductor of the Ocala Symphony Orchestra, and he's here with his beautiful wife, Kristin. And we met Kristin at the Christmas event, I believe, last Christmas, when we did that Nutcracker thing. Wasn't it the Nutcracker thing we did?
It's Peter in the Wolf.
Oh, Peter in the Wolf.
Or something.
Whatever.
Yes.
Something, yeah.
Night before Christmas.
Yeah, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had all the words provided to us. It was easy. The 36th subscription series, American Pleasures, a celebration of America's music, new and old, will be coming up, I guess, a week from this weekend, October 6th and 7th at the Ocala Breeders' Sales Auditorium. I always love speaking to Matthew. We speak the same language, G minor.
That's right.
Good morning, Matthew. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really good.
And Kristin, nice to have you in the studio. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And you're a cellist, right?
I am a cellist.
Is it celloist or cellist?
Cellist.
Cellist.
Yes.
Cellist.
You always have room for cello, right?
Yes.
It's the joke you hear over and over and over again, right? So what does it mean when it says American Pleasures? Because that almost sounds like something I've seen on a marquee.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a double entendre a little bit, a little racy. You know,
Really?
we're trying to get racy.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, it attracts attention.
It's working.
Well, the program for not this weekend, but next weekend, the 6th and 7th of October, it's all American music, so all American composers. We got 2 living composers, 2 dead composers. and
even it out.
Yeah, and
2 that are on their way.
Right, 2 that are on the way and 2 that are already there. There you go. No, and one of the pieces is called "The Pleasure Dome" of Kubla Khan, and it's by an American composer who died in 1920. The piece was written in 1919. His name is Charles Griffiths. He's not known very well, but it's an amazing. This one particular piece is a wonderful tone poem, and it's
a tone poem.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and what that means is it tells a story. It's one movement. Like a symphony would have multiple movements, but a tone poem, or there's all kind of words we call these things, but a tone poem is a good one. And it just means it's a one movement piece that tells a particular story. It has a program to it. And usually, this one is about 20 minutes long, but it follows Coleridge's poem, Pleasure Dome of Kubla Khan, which is really interesting.
Really?
Yeah, and I won't recite the poetry because I'm not good at things like that, but the way the poem was written is very interesting. Coleridge supposedly dozed off, although speculation is that there might have been opium involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually you don't just doze off, and hallucinate, but whatever. It's never happened to me. But anyway, so he dozed off and had a vivid dream of Xanadu and Kubla Khan and this palace and this jungle and these beautiful Eastern kind of setting. And in the dream, he saw this poem completely written. He said he was dreaming for about 2 or 3 hours, and he saw the whole poem. He saw the entire thing, and when he woke up, immediately all he had to do was take the paper and just copy what he saw in the dream. He didn't actually have to write it. He says,
Wow.
And so he writes. He gets about. He said it was supposed to be 200 or 300 lines long. He gets about 150 lines into it, and someone knocks on his door. And it's like a bill collector or something.
Oh, no. I hate that.
So then when he comes back to finish copying down the poem, it's gone. He can't remember anything. And the musical piece that our guy wrote, that Charles Griffiths writes, is sort of like that. Like you get this incredible impressionistic, kind of like Debussy music, and then at the very end, there's like this flash, and then and it's all gone. And you never...
Really?
Yeah, and you feel like, what happened? And the thing for me that I love about the composer Griffiths and this piece is he's kind of like that, because he only lived for 35 years. He never saw his 36th birthday. A lot like Mozart, they're about the same age when they died. And he has this great music. I mean, wonderful. Really, this is one example of his great music. But he's got some pieces for soprano and orchestra that are based on the poetry of Fiona MacLeod, and it's like really. I mean, this guy, he would have been bigger than a Copeland or bigger than one of our American greats. And he's like this flash, and then he died when he was 35, unfortunately, I believe pneumonia or some sort of complication from a disease, and now he's dead. So it was kind of too bad. But anyways, but the piece is great, and it doesn't get played very often, and the composer doesn't get played very often. So that's where the pleasure comes from.
Now, what I love about what you just did is you've just made being an audience member more interesting. By telling the story, and that's what you do normally at the concerts, right? Sure. You will tell the audience what they're about to hear, right?
I give them so many opportunities to get tired of me talking. It's because we do a pre-concert lecture. So every concert we do out of our subscription series out at OBS 4 times a year, an hour before the performance, I do a pre-concert lecture, which I don't like the word, so we call it a chat with Matt.
I love that, by the way.
And I didn't come up with it. Actually, our Dorothy Patone, our general manager from a few years ago, came up with that, which was a great idea. But anyways, so an hour before, I'll tell just like kind of what I just told you. I can be a little racier to them. I can tell them some other facts that I know that I can't say on the radio.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Really? Well, let me turn it up. Hold on. See if I can hear you. I want to hear it.
Yeah, I write it in the program, so you actually have written program notes, and then before each piece, I'll even talk a little bit more. So,
but I think that makes it interesting. Even if you don't quite get the whole thing,
right,
it makes it interesting.
Well, you got to know the rules of the game before you can enjoy the game. And I mean, like I've told the story before. My sister going to football games. She looked bored. I realized, she's bored because she doesn't know what's going on. There's 4 downs and 10 yards and stuff like that. And as soon as you explain a few of those ground rules, then you can participate. You can enjoy the game. So.
You know, there's a word you use regularly, almost all musicians do, as classical musicians, and I really don't know what it means.
What is it?
The word movement.
Movement.
And when I heard you say it's one movement, I thought, well, I don't really know what a movement...
Well, movement might mean different things to different people.
That's right. That's why it's racy.
Like, for example, in movie scores, they use the word motif.
Sure.
And that would be like the bum-ba-da-bum-bum-bum in the James Bond thing. It shows up a lot.
Right.
So is that what a movement? I mean, what is it?
A movement's real simple.
How do you define
it's a chapter in a book in a way. It's so a symphony has 4 movements, and typically movements is like the first movement of Beethoven's symphony. Ba, 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 ba. So when that movement is done, that it actually concludes. You actually get a bum bum, and it's over, and then the second movement of the symphony begins. So it's literally like, you listen to one song on if you guys, Robin and the Giant makes an album. And the album might have one theme. The album might be monkeys or something.
Monkeys.
Yeah. No,
Mike Nesmith came to mind. Yeah.
I love monkeys. I do. It was my favorite thing as a kid. Oh, and she goes by Monkey. They're favorite. Right?
Really?
I call her Monkey.
Nice.
But anyways,
Kristin. So this is why you're on the radio.
Monkey girl.
Yeah. This is why you're on the radio.
So your album about monkeys.
How'd you get that name? I don't know that story. No.
Yeah. How did we get that? Because she does this face where you do the thing.
Yeah.
You do the thing.
He really likes it.
Oh, can you do the face?
Sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I'm like, can you make faces for me? Can you
no bananas.
Nice.
No bananas.
No.
In the story. Okay.
So all right. So you have an album about monkeys, and there's 4 songs on it.
Right.
And the first song maybe is about bananas, and the second song is about tails, and the third song. So each of those songs would be a movement in a way in your symphony about monkeys.
Oh, okay.
So it's a distinct. Usually has a start and an end. Now there are some modern symphonies that they say are 2 movements, but there's a word called attacca, which is just means it looks like attack with an A on the end of it, kind of, and it's an Italian word that means that you don't put a break between the movements. So the last note of the first movement's happening, and then you just go right into the second movement with no cut off and wipe the sweat off your brow and everyone coughs. None of that. It just goes right to the...
And it's actually written that way.
Yeah, and Beethoven has a few of his symphonies where in between certain movements he'll write attacca. And it just means don't give the audience a chance to forget this idea. We want to go right to the next idea and surprise them, maybe, So
okay,
nice.
And so the story you just told us about the poem and the music that tells the story of the poem. That's one piece, or that's the whole show?
That's one piece. That's one piece. But that's where the pleasure...
That's one of the dead ones.
Because it's called the Pleasure Dome of Kubla Khan. So that's where this American pleasures idea. American composers, we got this one piece called...
So the symphony is the 4 stories, or the 4 movements.
A symphony can be, It can be 4 movements. It can be 5 movements. This is the thing about classical music, and it's about anything. Like, I mean, anything in life that there are like rules, But then when you actually get into it, the rules are never followed. You know what I mean? It's I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I guess in cooking, you know, you've got a cookbook and you know it's a teaspoon of this and a cup of this.
Right.
But when a real chef's kind of in the kitchen, they never
exactly.
measure a teaspoon.
That's a good point.
They never do.
Yeah.
That's a good comparison. Yeah.
So a symphony, which is a piece of music that's usually multi-movement, so 2 movements, 3 movements, 4 movements. 4 tended to be the standard that we sort of solidified in the 18th century. But a symphony is a multi-movement work, and that's what that means.
So what is your process in deciding what to play? I mean, do you like for example, before we went on the air, I told you I watched a movie about these accordion players. I mean, do you kind of like read books, watch movies, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I never heard of this composer. Let's do a whole show or part of a show. How do you discover this and make a decision to feature them?
Well, you listen to a lot of music and you go. There are a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am, so I like to see what other orchestras are doing, what other conductors that I respect, what are they programming, and maybe they say, hey, you need to check out this guy, or you need to check out this guy. In the case of Charles Griffiths, this piece in particular was premiered by Pierre Monteux, who is the conductor that started the conducting school I go to in Maine. So that's how I sort of down the grapevine heard of him. But I think of a lot of things, and we talked a little bit about it before, but you measure. You know, first and foremost, you have to say, what am I interested in? Because if as a conductor you're not passionate or interested in this music, it's probably going to be hard to convey that to your musicians and to the audience. That is what I look at, and I like underdogs. You know, I always root for the team that's sort of the underdog. So a composer like Griffiths is an underdog because he died when he was 35, and not many people know about him. And he's a wonderful composer. So you want him to be successful, even though he won't know it. But someone will. Maybe he will. I don't know. But anyway, so you look at that. And then I also, you know, because we are a professional symphony and we're paid for by ticket sales and donations, you look at, well, what would excite our audience, and you balance that. Because sometimes those two things aren't the same thing.
But I think the intellectual part of what you bring to it is going to attract the perfect audience for a symphony.
I think so.
I don't know, it just seems to be.
I mean, I know that if we just said, okay, this weekend we're only going to do... I don't know. I'm trying to think. You know, 1812 Overture.
Yeah, the tried and true.
And the William Tell Overture. You know, and I know that we would get a decent audience for that, but I think our audience long term will be a lot stronger than that if we give them programs like we're giving them this week, because there's still, and by the way, it's still in the program. We're doing An American in Paris, George Gershwin. I mean, that's one of those tried and true. But mixing in these little flavors, these little tidbits of spiciness, I think it builds your audience. You know, just like going to a museum. If you only saw the Mona Lisa, you know, you would go see it a few times, but you're not going to grow it. You're not going to want to go back, and you want something new and interesting. So,
and the audience appreciates that, because there is no other way that the audience can find out about something like that unless you present it to them.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, when we go to a restaurant, I'm pretty resistant to doing anything different.
Me too.
Me too. Music, I'm okay. Yeah. Music, I can download something. I never heard of this guy before, this instrument before.
Right.
The accordion thing I watched, one of the ladies in that group was playing accordion with another lady who had a one-stringed instrument that looked like it was homemade.
I've seen those, like a banjo or
is that what it's called?
I can't remember, but it's like...
Isn't that a bathroom in Spanish?
Yeah.
It might be. I don't know. I just made that word up. I just thought I wanted to sound educated. The first thing I could think of was bathroom. You know, I had a lot of coffee this morning. But did it have like a gourd at the bottom or something, and then the one string coming up, and he played sort of like a bass, or did she bow?
She had a bow.
It was a drone. It had a drone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. Sorry.
But anyway, it was beautiful.
Cool. Yeah.
It was beautiful. One string, and it just. All right. You want to go to the phone?
Sure.
Good morning. You're on the air with Matthew Wardell and Kristin.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
When you're at full orchestra, how many members are participating?
Well, it depends a little bit, but when we say the word full orchestra, what we mean is obviously you've got all your strings there, so first violin, second violins.
Right.
So in this case, we're going to have 10 first, 8 seconds, 6 violas, 6 cellos, and 3 basses. And then the other thing that full orchestra implies is that you've got a full complement of winds and brass players. So you'll have at least 2 on 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 bassoons, and then for the brass you'll have 4 horns, usually 3 trumpets, although there's some pieces that only require 2, 3 trombones, tuba, and then timpani and percussion, the rest of the percussion, sometimes a harp, sometimes a keyboard. So it can mean a lot of different things. In this case, we'll have about 60 members, 58, 60 members on stage.
What is the piano considered?
A lot of people, it's a debate, but I consider it a percussion instrument.
Percussion, yeah. Hey, have you ever considered doing any Dmitri Shostakovich's music?
Oh, yeah.
I know it's a little on the heavy side.
No. Well, some of it is, but some of it's not. And actually, we've done a lot of Shostakovich in the past. 2 years ago, we did a suite that he did for Hamlet.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And actually, this year I was debating on the Fifth Symphony.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, yeah.
Because I wanted to do a program called Party Music, and it was only going to be Soviet music.
Nice.
But next year maybe. But we'll do Shostakovich and Khachaturian and Prokofiev. And
is there one particular composer that's very difficult to perform over other ones? Like you always said, Tchaikovsky always kind of like wrote music for the masses.
Yeah.
Now, was his music like easier to perform than like somebody else?
It's really hard to say because 2 things go into it. Like, for instance, Tchaikovsky, and Kristin, you can probably identify this. Tchaikovsky, you're right. His music is so well loved, so therefore it's played often. So then the musicians have played it more.
We've heard it a lot.
Yeah, you've heard it. People know how it goes. So as a player, that helps because then you can learn it quicker. Yeah. Whereas, like this weekend, 3 of the pieces, maybe even 4 of the pieces we're playing, I guarantee you, none of our musicians have played before. So that in and of itself puts a barrier there that they can't just look at it and go, oh, I know how this goes. So but there are composers like that require a lot of finesse, and to me they're in 2 schools. You've got the real classical composers like Haydn and Mozart. There's no room for error. There's if one wrong note's played, everyone knows it. Whereas really in the thick of a Beethoven symphony or something even bigger like a Mahler or Tchaikovsky, someone makes a wrong note, it's so loud, and
the same thing happens to the Rolling Stones. Nobody noticed.
Right, exactly. That's right. Exactly.
In a dress rehearsal, like let's see the final dress rehearsal, would you play the whole symphony or just certain parts?
No, I do the whole thing. And I tend to, even in regular rehearsals, I don't like to, at least the first time, we'll just go through the whole piece straight through, if possible, without stopping, and then we'll work on it. A little section here, a little section here for the next into that rehearsal and the next rehearsal, and then on the Saturday dress rehearsal that we do before the concert, we tend to. Every once in a while, I'll start the rehearsal by saying, let's go to letter K, this needs to be fixed, rehearsal. But then we just run the piece straight through. It's important for 2 reasons. One, you just want to make sure you can do it. Right. And then second of all, it gives more of the overall picture of the piece so that the musicians, a lot of times we're really good at getting the punctuation right, but we forget to tell the story. And that's what playing the whole thing through kind of helps you tell the story. Yeah.
Are basically all your members local people, or do they come down from Gainesville or Jacksonville, or?
Honestly, I think the Ocala, the actual Ocala address contingent is probably only maybe 10% of the group.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I would say the next 70% come within about a 40-mile radius.
Oh, okay.
So and then there's a final 20% that some come from South Florida, some. I've even, it's funny, because we had such a strong relationship with a lot of the musicians from Gainesville, and some of them were grad students or students there, as they've gone to other universities, we've got a couple that are at Indiana, the Jacobs School of Music, they actually said, look, you don't have to pay for my ticket, I'm going to come visit my family, can I play with you this weekend anyways? So we've got some people coming from Indiana, we've got people from Texas.
Do you have any members that have played with real famous orchestras?
We do. I mean, our principal bassoonist, Arnold Irschai, was principal bassoonist for the Moscow Philharmonic. And Ed Klein, our principal cellist, has played under Leonard Bernstein, Pierre Monteux, all these Charles Munch, all these incredible conductors when he was at Tanglewood in Boston. We really do have a lot, and it's interesting. We have this sort of split between some younger people that are at the university level studying music, and then some older people who have maybe played with a lot of orchestras, and they're retired, and they say, I'd really like to keep playing, and they're very good, and they have the experience, and that balance is so cool, because you look at a stand, one of our violin stands, and you've got a 20-year-old who has a lot of technical skill, but maybe hasn't played a lot of concerts compared to the 60-year-old sitting next to her who's played 2,000 concerts. So that seeing that exchange, it's really cool, and it's cool for them too. Both of those players get something out of that. The older player says, "Wow, look at the youth, the energy."
Well, thanks a lot. I'm looking forward to the concert.
Oh, it'd be great. Thank you.
You bet. Bye now.
And you yourself, Matthew, are very impressive with all of your credits. I mean, you've traveled literally around the world. You have played with the familiar orchestras, and you have really studied in the different countries and the different cities. And so you are amazing to bring all of your knowledge and love and wonderment to the Ocala area, because that's what the symphony is all about. It's wonderment.
Robin, you're too kind. You're always too kind. You're always too kind.
Do you know, when you were just talking about the 20-year-old and the 60-year-old, it brought to mind something from when I was younger, because I was always doing pop music. And I went and I had this opportunity when I was younger to play with classical musicians who were adding string parts to some songs that I wrote, And I remember saying to the guy who was paying the bills, are they going to like my music? I mean, they're so, like, up there, and I'm just kind of here strumming a guitar. And long story short, when I did meet these guys, then there weren't that many. There was only 3 of them. That they sounded like 10 when they were done. But, but anyway, I mean, they did. They really did. They were complimenting the chord progressions and everything. I never even heard the term chord progression at the time. I just kind of was strumming.
That sounds good after this one. And
But anyway, so yes, I think, and in that particular scene, I was the younger, in that particular situation. So.
I think people have an impression of classical musicians that the music we play or the people themselves might be like kind of in a box, very confined. And I have a lot of friends who are real heavy into jazz, and I personally love jazz quite a bit. But sometimes they have this impression that, you classical musicians, you do the same thing over and over again. It's, gosh, you don't get to improvise. It's so boring. It's so non-creative. But the truth is the complete opposite. I mean, the classical musicians I know, and all of them that I've met, I mean, there's always a nerd here and there, but the bulk of us, and I'm a nerd, but the bulk of us are very hip people. I mean, the music they like, the music they listen to, the thought that goes into what they're performing, I mean, it's incredible. And they're so open to so many different kinds of music. I mean, if I want to hear the next cool band, I'll ask someone in the orchestra, because they know. If I want to know what's this new genre, there's a genre of music. What's it called? I can't remember. This Gangnam style, this Korean pop thing. It's all over the internet. So I don't know. There's a guy dances like this. It's crazy. It's really cool. But I learned about that from like a classical music trumpet player. Not from
On that note, with the improvising part of what you said, have you ever had like a guitarist or a saxophonist who, they don't sight read, but they would be pretty good at improvising, and you say, just sit in and play a riff at this point? Has that ever happened?
It would happen maybe in a particular circumstance, like if say we are doing like a jazz-inspired tune. Maybe we're playing a pop concert and we got Cole Porter or some other stuff. Yeah, you would have a rhythm section, a pianist, and a jazz guitarist, just like a jazz band would. But in the context of Western art music or classical music as we know it, I mean, really, it's pretty strict that this is the music. I mean, the composer is kind of like he's the guy writing the Bible, and we're the preachers, and we have to interpret that as best as possible, and hopefully not add our own bias to it.
But in an informal setting, this would be for Kristin as well. I mean, do you ever kind of get together with other musicians and we're just going to play a few chords and see what happens? And kind of the way rock musicians do. They just strum.
I would love to be able to do that. I would love to sit down with other classical musicians and I've really actually been, I would really love the idea of playing like in a jazz band with, being a jazz cellist in a jazz band. I think that would be really cool. But it takes a lot of practice to improvise, really.
Yeah, just like what we do, it takes practice really to be good at that.
But I mean, let's say if I got a guitar right now and you had your cello and I was just playing like a 4-chord progression, and it was over and over the same thing over and over. Eventually, you'd have.
I could probably get something out.
she won't tell you, but she's incredibly talented. And actually, I told you the story last time that a friend of hers at work, she's a nurse as well, and is getting married. And she said, "Could you play some songs for my wedding?" And Kristin, of course, goes, "Oh yeah, no problem." So the girl says, well, I want this song and this song and this song. So Kristin goes, all right. So she comes home, and like 3 days later, she's playing this song on the banjo, this song on the guitar. She's doing Imagine, the John Lennon song, on the cello.
Wow.
So I mean, she
Oh, that's beautiful.
She's got that
I learned
talent.
ukulele.
Yeah, ukulele.
Oh,
Oh, I didn't
nice.
mean to say banjo. I'm going to say ukulele. I'm stuck on that banjo thing, and I got
Banjo thing. Have you seen the? What was it, Robin? We saw the banjo-lele. The banjo-lele.
Yeah,
Have you
the
seen the
banjo-lele.
banjo-lele?
no,
Yeah.
like a little bitty
It
banjo.
is yes.
Oh,
It's
that sounds
great.
cool.
We love it.
Where did I see this?
I would love
Sound
to play
exchange.
When Jeff Lynne was with George Harrison.
Right.
This is my music. They were kind of jamming with these little tiny banjos with 4 strings, little tiny banjo-leles. And we went to the Sound Exchange.
Right.
And I said, "Oh my God, they got them! They
There
got
it is. That's
banjo-leles right
Wow,
there."
that's cool. I love the
And
banjo.
I guess you play them just like a ukulele. It's probably tuned with the dog flea thing. My dog has flea.
Yeah, that ukulele is weird. Like the tuning of that, where the one string is higher than the.
Yes.
It took us a few days to
Very
make
weird.
sure we're doing that right because
Very weird.
very interesting.
So is a cello tuned like a violin?
Well, it's tuned in fifths like a violin is, but the strings are different notes.
Because
well,
they're lower.
3 of the strings are the same, and then they have an additional E string, and we have a C string on
Well,
the lower.
the violin, not to
Oh, really?
contradict you, is tuned in fourths, and,
Oh.
and the viola, cello, and the viola and cello are tuned the same, C, G, D, A, just in fifths, and then the bass is
Okay,
tuned in
okay.
fourths.
And the mandolin is tuned like a violin, right? I think
No, it is tuned in fifths. Gosh, the violin is in fifths, but it starts on G. G, D, A, E.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And then the viola, cello are fifths, C, G, D, A, and then the bass is in fourths.
I'm right
And
sometimes.
most of the time, actually. Ever since we got
There
married,
you
she's
go.
right all the time. It's very true.
Well,
This is a therapy show, right? We can express some feelings that we've had.
See, this is
that's
the
right. 8
difference.
months.
When he's with here in here with the other pretty ladies, he's always right.
Yeah.
Pretty ladies.
No, not all the pretty ladies. Sorry, I'm never in here with pretty ladies.
Goodness.
But at least here, as his wife, you can be right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
See, you can be right.
I'm always right.
You guys are so fun and so refreshing, and I love the fact that you come in and spend some of your time with us.
I love talking to you guys.
That
It's
is
wonderful.
That is really awesome. So the main reason you're here, of course, is to promote the event next weekend, the 6th and the 7th.
Sure, and I should. Oh, sorry, Larry. Can I just mention that this
Sure,
weekend
sure.
we have a performance at the Appleton as well?
Oh, okay.
It's the 30th. It's almost sold out, so I wasn't going to mention it a whole lot. But it's a pianist, a friend of mine, Darren Matias, and it's music by Gershwin. It's jazz. It's this kid. This kid is really exciting as a younger guy. Anyway, so that's this week, and you can go to our website, ocalosymphony.com, to find details on that, or you can go to the Appleton, and they can sell you tickets there, too. It's $15, includes admission to the museum.
Oh, nice.
One question I have for both of you.
Perfect.
Both of you. Kristin, I'll ask you first. Is there any one instrument you would just love to get your hands on and play on, even if you struggled playing it?
Well, when you mentioned the banjo, that sounded pretty appetizing, actually.
We're both hot for the banjo.
Right.
Are you really?
We've been talking about it for a long time.
Did you see Mark Johnson on the Letterman show?
Oh, I didn't see that. When was that?
Couple nights ago.
No, I
Do you
can't
know
stay
Mark?
up that late. I can't. No, I don't know him, but I can't stay up that late.
Oh,
I know
well.
Bella Fleck. That's sort of my.
Well, Mark is from Denellen. He's the emergency management guy or something.
He was on the.
On Letterman,
Tonight?
yeah.
Yeah, he won
That's
the
cool.
Steve Martin contest, and did I say his name? Steve Martin?
Yeah,
the
Steve Martin,
comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays claw hook or something. He pushes
Claw hammer.
He pushes the strings down rather than plucking them up.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I've never. We gotta check that out. I didn't know about. I'll YouTube it or
Oh
something.
man, you got to invite this guy to.
I never. Have I met him?
Steve Martin, according to the article in the paper, yeah, you might have met him. He's been in here a few times, but now that he's been on Letterman, forget that morning show on Ocala.
Right.
But I mean, he actually had Steve Martin inviting him up to New York, and then Steve Martin paid the bill to teach him how to play.
Wow.
Teach him how to play.
Steve Martin is cool. I like that guy.
So banjo is yours. See, mine, I always
There.
wanted to put my hands on a sitar.
oh. Well,
Have you had your hands on a sitar ever?
no, I played tabla a little bit. The 2 drums.
Oh,
that
really?
Go with it, but I've never done the sitar.
I don't know if we were too loud or they were. Sorry. And Matthew, what about you? Any instrument you'd love to have your hands on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we have mutually been talking about the banjo a lot lately. I love that instrument. It's cool. It's kind of feels like a southern thing. I love the cello, which is her instrument. But a sitar would be cool. I don't know. Now I want to play it all. Don't pigeonhole me like this. I want to do everything because So many neat sounds out there.
Have you played the harp? Have you ever played the
I
harp?
played the harp.
Yeah.
I played the harp. It's okay. It's not as fun as it looks. You know, you see them, it's so like this
It does look fun,
angelic music. No, you plug the thing, it's like, like it doesn't. It's not so easy. No, it's not as easy as it looks. Well, maybe you've played it better. I don't
I'm
know.
not saying it's easy, but I'm
We got to make room. We're hogging the time here. Matthew Wardell and Kristin. When you got married, you took Matthew's name. Yes? No?
I did.
You keep your name. Okay. Well, Kristin Wardell then. Matthew and Kristin Wardell. Thank you both for coming in here.
The other name's still her middle name, just in case things don't go. She can kick it back out to the end.
It's a Florida rule.
Yeah.
And, only in Florida.
Yeah.
All right, we got to make room. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Kristin. We'll take a little break and be very soon. We'll be right back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
Don't get caught without your daily source